Welcome to this episode of A Facilitator's Journey. Today I am joined by the team from Locksmith, a brand marketing capability, coaching, training, workshop, awesome duo, Chris and Alex. We talk about how their journey started, how did they know that they wanted to work together or even that they were going to work together. We talk about some of their fundamentals of being in a partnership in business and what they did at the very start of their partnership to ensure that all would run smoothly. And then we just carry on chatting as per usual. So my invitation is pull up a chair, get a cup of tea and settle in on the pink seat and enjoy this conversation. Hello, Team Locksmith. How are you?
Hey, Kirsty, nice to see you.
And you, welcome to A Facilitator's Journey, the SOF podcast. Today, I'm talking with Locksmith, but they are two individuals, Chris and Alex. The question I ask everybody before we really get into this is, how do we know each other?
Well, Kirsty, you and I used to work together at Diageo a long time ago, although I don't know we actually worked together at any point. We kind of knew of each other. And then we kind of got back in touch really about 2 years or so ago and done some training with you since then. And I think I might have introduced Alex.
Yeah. Well, I came across you, Kirsty, very early in lockdown when everyone was just freaking out about doing stuff online. And you were doing some really lovely sessions about, just how to be yourself and how to create a welcoming environment. And I think you were just generally being really lovely to everyone in lockdown. And that was my first interaction with you. And that's where I found out that you were ex-Diageo and I was, and we put lots of pieces of the puzzle together. But that was how we first originally met.
That's true. So for our regular listeners, they often go, "Oh, it's another Diageo link." But we didn't work together. But it just shows you, for me, it just shows you the power of your community and networks and people who they keep coming around. It would be really lovely to have some introductions though, like who are you, how do you describe it, what it is that you do? So Alex, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, of course. So I am the Smith half of Locksmith. Smith was my maiden name, and I am mother of two and husband of an Aussie, and I have 3 Siamese cats at home as well. I have a lot of men in my house and a male business partner as well. So Kirsty, it's a delight to be having a little bit of female injection on a Friday afternoon.
I love that.
And I'm a marketeer at heart. So I spent 23 years in marketing roles before starting Locksmith with Chris. I started my career at the National Lottery and spent 10 very happy years there doing marketing communications and MPD, coming up with new ideas for scratch cards of all things. And then I moved to Diageo and I joined the business in Ireland, moved to Dublin, did a couple of years there working on beer, and then came back and embraced my love for tequila and spent 5 years working in marketing and then 5 years in innovation.
Nice.
Where Chris and I worked together a lot there as well. And then 7 years ago, I joined Fevertree at a time when they were scaling up massively to be their global innovation director. And I think most people are aware of that wonderful success scale-up story, and I was lucky enough to be part of that.
Wonderful.
So that brings us up to kind of 5 years ago when Chris and I...
We'll get to that. I'm going to hold the Locksmith story. Chris, who are you? How do you describe what you do?
So, hello, I'm the Lock half of Locksmith. I also have about 24 years worth of experience in marketing and innovation roles. Alex has basically stalked me throughout my career because we met at the National Lottery. She followed me to Diageo and then she made me become her business partner about 4 or 5 years ago. So my career spans initially Kantar as a market researcher to begin with, then at the National Lottery with Alex, then at Diageo in a variety of roles in the UK, in Europe and global, finishing up in innovation. And then 8 years ago, I left Diageo and I went to join a couple of startups. First of all, I went to Lily's Kitchen, which is a pet food business, and then The Collective, a dairy business. And then finally, I guess more of an SME, Feel Unique, which is an e-commerce beauty retailer. And that does bring us up to about Christmas 2019, which is when Locksmith was born.
Love
I
it.
would just like to say, Kirsty, for the record, Chris always makes me go first for those introductions, so he can then pull the stalking card
Bugger.
and make it sound
Isn't
like
it?
I was stalking him. So I should know
We should have done it
better.
the other way. I'm so sorry.
I should know
Only
better than
I
that.
had
Works
known.
every time.
So, we always talk about facilitation and training. So, what are Locksmith known for?
So at Locksmith, we help marketeers be brilliant. And we do that in a few ways. We teach them the functional skills. They need to be really good marketeers. And then we teach them the leadership skills. They need to be able to land their work with impact.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at the heart of what we do. And we do that through training, courses, workshops, coaching, and mentoring.
Nice. Love it. And there's two of you, and you've alluded that it started in 2019. So I'm always curious about partnerships and also how we start our businesses. So it'd be really interesting to hear, like, how did Locksmith come to be?
Well, it started a tiny bit before then. The germ of the idea was a little bit before then. Alex and I think, got talking about it at a friend's 40th birthday party. We were talking about the possibility of maybe working together in the future. And then towards the end of 2019, Alex was leaving Fever Tree. I was leaving the collective at the time, and we sat down to chat. And both of us were sort of, don't really want to go back and work for another corporate because we've been in startups and we like the pace and the creativity and the risk taking. Don't really want to go and work at another startup because we've both successfully found some pretty crazy founders. And so why don't we be the crazy founders and do our own thing? And originally, we were going to do a consultancy business, bringing our experience of startups and corporates together and doing the bits of the marketing mix that we really enjoyed. But we got a couple of training gigs quite early on, and we realized that we were really good at it. And we also realized that there were far fewer good trainers out there than there were good consultants. And so we enjoyed that work, and we decided to focus our time and our energy on training and developing people.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say it's always been the part of our jobs we've loved. I really found my feet with coaching when I worked at Diageo. I trained as a transformational life coach after I finished at Fever Tree, and we both taught the Diageo way of brand building, which is a globally recognised program. So we've loved training, coaching, developing people. And I think when we sat and put our heads together about what we wanted to do, we just decided we wanted to do the bits that we loved the most, which essentially is building the brands, but it's growing the people behind the brands as well.
And why do it together? You could have both just gone and done your own thing individually.
Do you know, it's a really good question. Thing is, Alex and I have known each other for such a long time. We get on really well. We know how each other thinks. And actually, there's a lot where we think pretty similarly, but there are some areas where we really are quite different and we complement one another. But I think both of us felt that going into something as unique and new and scary as running your own business, be much better to have someone to work with, to bounce ideas off of, for support, than just to try and do it alone. And it would increase the range of our network and the number of people that we knew to have two of us out there rather than just one of us.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was quite simple for me, Kirsty. I'm not a lone ranger. I don't operate well as a lone ranger. I like having people around me. I like working with others. I like collaborating. And Chris is the same, really. So I don't think there was ever a question for me about, am I going to do this alone? It was always going to be a partnership.
Can either of you recall where you were when you sort of looked each other in the eye and went, yeah, let's do this?
Oh, it'll be interesting to see what you remember, Chris.
Okay. Oh my God, it's like Mr. and Mrs. Okay, ready? Right, let's take a moment. Here's the question. I feel like I need to get you to write it down on a bit of paper and then hold up your answer.
That would be good.
I think Chris is going to go first this time, Alex. Should we ask Chris to go first?
This is kind of like asking your actual life partner to remember what your anniversary date is or that kind of thing, isn't it? So I think that when this was really born and we really decided this was happening, we were actually sat around Alex's dining table probably around December, January 2019, 2020, something like that. And we started to sketch it all out on a flip chart and say what mattered to us and what we wanted to do about it and why it'd be better to do that together. That's what I've got in my head.
That's Chris's. Alex, when was it for you?
Yeah, well, it is that, but there was a precursor to that, which was a meal in a pub called the Pomeroy, where we sat eating burgers and having a glass of red wine and deciding, let's just stop talking about it and let's do something about it. And the do something was the session that Chris just described.
Nice. Chris,
there we
do
go.
you remember that?
I do remember that. Yes, I do.
It's the right answer. Even if you don't remember it, just saying that is the right answer.
Exactly.
Because I think it's because one of the things I often talk about now is like, I'd love to have a partner in crime in business. And I don't. And I don't know where to find them. And I just think you're very lucky that you guys, I feel like it's like dating agency, found each other.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, do you know, I think it goes back to what Chris said. We've known each other, well, how long, Chris? Over 25 years now.
Yeah.
Probably coming up for, this is the anniversary question thing, isn't it, where I get it wrong? But we really have known each other for that long, and we're friends. You know, we've been friends for that long, not just business colleagues. So, I mean, I could count on one hand, probably not even that, the number of people that I would have been prepared to go into business with. And, you know, Chris is one of those. And I guess, you know, without getting a woo-woo about it, there's a little bit of fate dealt a hand. You know, we were both at the right time in the right place and the opportunity arose and it seemed madness not to go after it.
Well, Alex, you and I both do the woo-woo, so let's just be honest, it was fate. And it was written in the stars. Chris, just let that one slide and just accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
logically
totally okay with
the
it.
right thing.
No, my horoscope said it was going to happen, so I totally believed in that.
It's way more than that. It's probably your moon, but we'll talk about that in another way. Oh, poor Chris. On my screen, Chris is sandwiched between Alex and myself, and I can sort of visual of him looking slightly awkward, of like, what are those two on about now? Just give me strength.
He's used to
it. Okay, so here's the thing. So if people are listening and going, yeah, I really want to work with someone, and I've got someone in mind, I guess I'm curious, what were the qualities each of you were wanting from a partner, business partner? What are the qualities that you were thinking about that you would like?
But, you know, we went through quite an interesting exercise. When we had that dining table experience of working out what we were going to do, one of the things Alex and I both did was we wrote down our values and what mattered to us about how we like to work, the environments that we like to work in, the people that we like to work with. And because we'd done some work on it ourselves in the past, we also talked about our purpose and to see where that aligned with each other and with the kind of work that we were going to do. And we've known each other such a long time as well. There's a lot of things that had probably been unsaid, but that exercise allowed us to get it out in the open and make sure that things lined up.
Yeah.
And so we've just got a very similar, we've got a similar work ethic. We've got a similar philosophy about the role that work should play in our lives versus our family lives and our friends and other things. And we both have a real passion for marketing and for developing people. So there was a lot of stars that aligned.
Alex, from your perspective, what do you think doing that exercise at the beginning has given the relationship, the business?
Well, I think it was a real leveler, actually, because as Chris said, I think a lot of it was assumed or implied or just we'd known each other for so long, it was implicit. But by sitting down and actually articulating what mattered to us and looking at each other, white to the eyes, really, and saying, look, this is really important to me. Do you agree? What does that mean for the business we set up? And it really allowed us to build the kind of business that we both really wanted. And it allowed us to do that from the beginning and set the ground rules and agree them together. And we haven't deviated from that since.
Well, I was about to ask you, so obviously we're 4 years on, and how do you maintain the working relationship as you each year? How does that work?
That's a good question. I've never really thought about it per se, but I mean, there are things that we do all the time, like, regular check-ins, not just on a work level, but on a personal level. We schedule time to talk about the business, how we're feeling about the business, where the business is going, the direction it's taking. Are we still happy with that? So it's very intentional that we are checking in on
Nice.
that kind of stuff. And whilst the business really is unrecognizable 4 years into what it was when it started, the ethos is still exactly the same.
Okay. Chris, how often are those check-ins?
I guess on a very formal level, we do them at least once a quarter, and we have a longer session once or twice a year. But realistically, it's also triggered by whenever we think we need to. So if there's something changed in the volume of work that we're doing, or something changed in our home lives, or in the pipeline of new projects that are coming through that requires a conversation, then we get stuck into that straight away. We also, we're big believers in feedback. And so if we're running a training course, we always get feedback at the end of that. If we're running a multi-day training course, we get feedback every single day. And so it gives Alex and I a lot of material to be able to chat about and see what it means for what we're doing right now and what we're going to do in the future.
Nice. And what other structures, just thinking about being in partnership, what structures do you have within the business that enables it to work well?
We have an unwritten rule that I do all the boring stuff on spreadsheets.
Perfect. We like that. We always need someone to do that.
That's so true, isn't it? There are definitely natural divisions of labours, and fortunately, Chris likes spreadsheets because I hate them. So
I can sort of vouch for that. Chris likes the detail. So before this, dear listener, my Bridgerton, before this podcast, he emailed me earlier in the week and said, "Can I have the questions?" And I had to confess that there are no written down questions because they're always in my head and they just naturally come through the conversations. We do have planning calls, though. We have a preparation call, which Chris came to, and Alex was unable to join us. And knowing you both well enough, Alex was probably like, "Yeah, it's fine. Just give me an update. I'll be fine." Whereas Chris would be like, "I need to be there, man. Like, I want to know what I'm getting into here. I need to work this one out, even though I know Kirsty."
Yeah.
Well, between us, and please don't let anyone else know this, the actual main reason I wanted to know was so that Alex and I didn't trip each other up. So very happy responding to a spontaneous question, but it's more like if you go the Mr. and Mrs. question, are we gonna trip each other up here, or say the same thing, or suddenly realise, actually, do you know what? This whole partnership thing is flawed. Look what's Kirsty's unearthed.
Yeah. I don't like you. Sorry, it's time to break up.
It's like couples therapy. Suddenly, like that sort of. Yeah,
I mean, you laugh, Kirsty. I mean, obviously, it's not couples therapy, but Chris and I probably spend more time together than we do with our partners some week, and it is absolutely critically important that the principles you apply to any healthy relationship get applied to this as well, which is really, really honest, regular communication. And I think that's first and foremost, that underpins it all, doesn't it? Because
I've got a question.
You've got nothing to base it on.
I've got a thought and a question. So a couple of people I've interviewed for the podcast have had professional divorces. Have you two spoken about have you ever played out the what ifs? Like, what are the deal breakers? What would send one of you spiraling to go, "I can't believe whatever the business equivalent of cheating on me," or you have really done something that is just triggers me. Have you ever had that conversation?
So no is the short answer. We haven't. But I think we know each other well enough to have a good idea of what those things are. And also, if anything came into the equation that either of us felt uncomfortable about, we would flag it very quickly and very early and have the conversation there and then. So, I mean, thinking about it, it might be, for example, a type of client who comes along. So we do have some rules, if you like, about the types of clients we will and won't work with. And we both sign up to those rules, but sometimes something might come in that we feel a little bit differently about. We'll have that conversation, but I don't think we've ever really disagreed about it yet.
No, not yet. We've never role modeled or role played rather that sort of idea of like what would actually cause this to not work. But I think that's because we've been really clear up front around what makes it work. And so the rules around the type of work we want to do, the type of clients we want to work with, how busy we want to be, and what our earnings need to look like, and the type of work we want to do on the business, not just in the business. So, as an example, Alex and I love meeting new clients, designing solutions for them, and writing and delivering those solutions. Neither of us like the idea of running a business where someone else gets to have all the fun and we're doing all of the admin in the background and none of the client-facing stuff. And so that puts some very strong guardrails in around how we're going to operate together. That means probably those sort of circumstances just aren't going to happen because we'll have the right conversation about them.
Nice. In the business, is it just you two, or do you have others?
There are others.
What do they do? And I'm always interested to ask people, like the structure of their businesses to inspire others, so they can go, oh, like these are the types of roles that people have started to bring in. Are they associate or are they PAYE? Would you mind sharing a bit, please?
So up until recently, we have worked with a small number of associates, but on a very ad hoc basis when we've needed help with specific projects. So there might be more practical things like PowerPoint design or social media management. The kind of what I would call the very specific, not even admin tasks, but the very specific task focused stuff. But we have recently appointed our first, I was going to say full-time hire. She's not full-time. She's 4 days, but she's permanent. We have our first permanent hire in Sophie Cobley, who's our Chief Learning Officer. And she worked with us on a freelance basis for about 8 months, but was so brilliant and made herself so invaluable. We decided this year we would invest to take her on permanently. And she does all sorts of things. She's brilliant because she will turn her hand to anything, which is what you need in this kind of environment. So she does our marketing, our social media. She helps us develop our content. She does our research. She does some client liaison. Essentially, she just does anything we ask her, and she's brilliant. You can point her anywhere. How did you find her?
She's like, that's a unicorn you've got there.
Yeah. Well, Sophie came on one of my confidence courses about 4 years ago, because one of my other hats is being a transformational life coach, and I was running a course on confidence. She came along, enjoyed it, and we kept in touch, and she follows me on social media. And then a few years later, when she was finishing up a role and looking for new opportunities, she got in touch to say she really loved the work we were doing, and if there was ever anything that Locksmith needed, would we consider her? And coming back to fate again, Kirsty, it was at exactly the time that we were looking for that kind of resource. So we had a conversation and we immediately hired her. We didn't talk to anyone else.
Nice. That's good. And so you've got Sophie. Do you have accountants or bookkeeper or any of those types of people like on retainer? We often pay those. Nice.
Important. We do. Yeah, we've outsourced our accounting. We've also outsourced IT support. And as Alex mentioned, PowerPoint. And then when we need it, if we need some additional expertise in writing content or another pair of hands helping us to deliver content, then we've got a network of really good people that we've worked with previously that we reach out to on a project by project basis.
Have you got someone legal? Do you ever heard?
Kind of. There's a law firm that we've worked with, an external law firm that have been great. Actually, they've done some really good work for us on contracts and on advice. And so we'd always keep going back to them. They're called Tiger Law. They've been awesome.
Nice. I think just having these different, let's call them experts in our back pockets is super important when we're running our own businesses. People would be like, but I can't afford to do it. But my attitude is I can't afford to make a mistake in my IT. I can't afford to make a mistake in my accounting because it is, let's be clear, not my forte, not something that excites me. So I'd rather pay for someone's capability. And then we get to the legal stuff. Well, we need legal. It's a whole other kettle of fish.
And the amount of time it'll save you. It's worth just doing a quick back of packet calculation on how much time it'll save you or how much better it'll make your business. And we've taken a conscious choice this year to invest in a number of things, Sophie being one of them, in order to set our business up to be in a better position for the future.
Nice. I think that's so important. Now, a date went through my ears as we were talking earlier, and you were saying, we sat at the dining room table in December 2019, and so you started in 2020. Is that when you both, like Locksmith, came to be?
Yes.
2020 will always be that year. That
Won't
year.
it just? Well,
Starting a business in 2020. Tell us, how was that for you, Alex?
Well, it hit us right from the off, didn't it? Because our first ever commission was a training course, an in-person training course in London, and lockdown was called the weekend before we were due to go live with our first ever commission. And and that was it from there on in. So we kind of grew up and as a online native business. We didn't do any work in person until after COVID. So it kind of felt quite natural in some ways because we'd never done it any differently.
Okay.
So we didn't have that awful, I was going to say transition, but it was worse than that, wasn't it? For people who were office based or used to being out and about to suddenly having to remodel their businesses and start from scratch. We were starting from scratch. So we didn't have things to change and remodel. There was a bit of a pivot of mindset needed, obviously, but we built our business on Zoom for those first kind of 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. And Chris, what was it like finding clients though at that time? Because those of us who are established had clients just going, hit pause, don't do anything.
Yeah, there was that was definitely an element of it. I guess we were you create your own luck, right? So Alex, when she left Fevertree, was on a redundancy package that gave her a bit of air cover for a few months. I'd taken a 3-day-a-week contract at Feel Unique, and so I had some air cover. And so we were good for the first 3 or 4 months financially, whilst we were putting the message out there that we were doing this and that we were available. And in a lot of ways, I think the friends that Alex and I built up on over the years, the network of people that we'd worked with over the years, came into sharp focus. We made sure that people knew that we were available, and we reached out to people, and we got a couple of projects within a couple of months of starting. Right. And as Alex says, we had to pivot to Zoom for that first training course, and we did that within a couple of days. And so everything then ran on Zoom. But probably it took maybe 3-4 months before we got our first proper paid commission after that. And that's sort of June, July 2020. And we've been busy ever since.
I think there's 2 things that I hear that I think are really important for anyone thinking about like setting up. There's having some air cover financially. Let's just be really blunt, because like I left at Christmas time. I had a bit of air cover, but if I think back now, I probably didn't have as much as maybe I would have thought would have been wise. It all just seemed to work out for itself. But having some financial runway, and I think it's at least 4 months financial runway that you need, because even if you get a client early on, getting paid is sometimes the other fun. So there's something about definitely there's a bridge. I think I advise people that there's a bridge between leaving and it's the security of the monthly paycheck. That's all it is.
Yes. It takes a lot of getting used to not having that. Still not completely used to it.
Okay. Let's talk about that in a minute. And then the second thing I heard was telling people what you were doing and that you were available and working your network.
Yeah. And that in particular was really quite uncomfortable at first. And as 2 marketeers, going out to market yourself is a whole different ball game. Everyone assumes you're a marketer, you know what you're doing, but it's self-promotion is always uncomfortable, and we had to get very comfortable with it very quickly.
And I think, Alex, let's be very honest, you're both very good brand marketeers, and it's a whole other ball game in the marketing that you do when it's like marketing your business, marketing your services. It's social media, it's in language of, it's below the line, it's like, it's a different kind of way. It's not like, what's the pack shot going to be in this advert, or like what's our awareness campaign that we're going to use. It's very, yes, there's principles that are very similar, but I think it'd be unfair if people said, oh, but you're a marketeer, you should know how to do it. I think that'd be really unfair.
Also, you know, we've been marketers of FMCG products, and so we're used to people shelling out between £5 and £20 for something because they want it right now. And what we had to do instead is A, market ourselves, but also B, market a service. And the decision time frame for that service, for some of our clients, we've been talking to them for 2 years before we got commissioned on something. And for others, it's a lot shorter than that, but it's a very different way of approaching it.
Totally. And for people listening, what were some of the things that really worked for you when it came to like marketing your services and yourself? What have you noticed?
Well, I think the biggest thing has to be LinkedIn, and that's where we spend sort of most of our marketing time, if you like, on LinkedIn. So that's a biggie, and Chris in particular is excellent at that, so I'm sure he'll have something to say on it. But the other thing is just getting in touch with people, looking up old contacts, speaking to people, letting them know what you're doing. You know, that old black book analogy, it's true, but you just have to swallow the discomfort and ring people up and say, hello, it might have been 15 years since we spoke, but this is what I'm doing, and let us know if you ever need some help. And just working the networks, working the floor in that old-fashioned way does work.
And is that what you do, Alex? You pick up the phone?
Do I pick up the phone? I think in the early days, to people I knew, yes. Less so now. We tend to use video, so we do try and keep it personalized. So if we're contacting people, whether it's cold or that we've already got an in there, rather than write an email or, you know, just send a LinkedIn message, we'll record a little video to say hello and introduce ourselves, or touch base. And that's something we prefer doing because it's just far more human, and actually generally tends to get a better response as well.
I was just about to ask, what kind of response do you get to the video?
Well, interestingly, everyone says, that's brilliant. I love that. It's much better than just an email. And most people go on to say, I'm going to do more of that myself. And, you know, we like it because it's more personal, but we also like it because it's more like how we do our training. So it gives people a taste for what it would be like to work with us straight away.
And what platform do you use to send the videos? Just in case anyone suddenly goes, ingenious, I wish to do the same.
Video Ask is really good because people can reply. And so you can reply by video, you can reply by voice message or by text. So that's really nice for that. We also use Loom sometimes if you just want to record a video and send it in an email. So both of those work really well.
Do you think they have better open rates and response rates than just a flat email?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not sure we can say statistically, because we track it, that we know that. But my sense absolutely is that they get far more engagement. Absolutely.
Nice. How did you overcome the ick factor that you sort of meant, my word, not yours, but that sort of, oh God, hi, it's me.
You just have to do it. And the more often that you do it, the less ick it becomes. And the more you get a bit of a patter going of the things that you say and the way that you say them, and it just becomes gradually more natural. I mean, I think, you know, if I look back now, it's just over 2 years ago, I made a conscious decision to start posting on LinkedIn every working day. And pretty much for the last 2 years, with some holidays aside, I've posted every single working day. And the amount of engagement and reach that I've got, and people who say they've seen something that I've written, has just gone through the roof. And it's recognizing that something like LinkedIn just gets you and what you do inside someone's head. And then when they need that thing, you're the person that they remember because they see you on LinkedIn.
I can absolutely echo that. There have been points where people go, oh my God, I just see you on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, I haven't been on it for a very long time. I haven't for about 20 days and I feel a bit bad, which is a ridiculous thing to say. So when Chris, you said you've been on there for bar holidays for the last 2 years, my brain was just going, wow. And then my second part of my brain went, what do you talk, how do you get all your ideas? Where do they come from? I'm in awe.
So I'd like to say that it's massively organized like a marketer, and I've got a content calendar and all sorts of things. I did some organization at the beginning, but really, truthfully, what I do, I've got a Trello board. And at any point when something comes into my head that I think that would be an interesting thing to write about or a post or whatever, I just stick it in the Trello board. And then each day I take a look and decide what I'm going to write about. And sometimes there's something topical going on that directs what I'm going to do, or there's some news that we want to share. But other times I just draw down from that list of ideas and write about it. And I think it's worth sort of saying as well, the intellectual posts occasionally go somewhere, but in truth, LinkedIn's still a social media platform. People are buying people. The posts that are more personal are the ones that seem to get the most engagement time after time.
That's true.
Yeah. And ultimately, it's all about habits, isn't it? And Chris has created a habit, because you went from not doing anything on LinkedIn pretty much to suddenly being a super user, and has created that habit. And I got into the habit. Actually, the last month I haven't been great. I haven't been particularly well. I've had other things on, and I've got out of the habit. But I go through phases of being equally as voracious on LinkedIn.
I hear you, Alex.
But it is all about habit, really, and a bit of forward thinking about what you can talk about.
And I think it's also just reminding yourself what's the intention behind it.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a shop window, and for me it's awareness and being front of mind.
That's it, 100%.
Oh, yeah. We need
awareness, consideration. You're very unlikely to make a sale as a direct result of someone seeing a post on LinkedIn, but the game is to get a conversation when that person needs what you do.
Yeah. I absolutely. And then people come to you, and I've had people come to me who I was like, didn't even know you knew me or even remembered me. Like, I had a strategy director from Diageo this year message, long conversations, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know I was on your radar, but I'll take that any day. But it's those moments, isn't it, that helps. So just out of curiosity, how did you get your company name? I think it's obvious, but maybe not.
Oh, well.
So my maiden name is Smith. So I used to be Alex Smith. Chris is Chris Locke. So it was a bit of a gift, really, Locksmith. And Locksmith is everything about unlocking growth. So it's a combination of our surnames. It represents what we do. And it has, been the gift that's kept on giving for all sorts of unlocking puns. And
branding is good. The key and the lock.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, what I'd add to it, what we like about it as well is it is both of us. And so what it represents, because when we do our training, we train as a pair. We bounce ideas off of each other when we're creating a training course. And although Alex and I have a lot of similarities, when it comes to something like the Insights color wheel, I'm more blue, Alex is more yellow. So I'm a bit more into the detail and analytics. Alex is more into the ideas. We complement each other really well. Yeah. And we reflect that in the training that we do. It helps us to bring introverts and extroverts into the room equally, because we both have that natural ability. And then having a brand name that reflects the both of us, it's all part of the story.
Nice. I think brand is really important, like brand name. I think the logo is really important. So I was coaching someone this week, and their logo, I just went, he hasn't started yet, and I went, I'd get someone to work that up for you if I was you. Because now with SOF, people recognize weirdly, I didn't realize the three letters, even the coloring. You go, oh yeah, you've got that bright color. I mean, it just exactly. You can tell the marketer that was the intent. You want that visual
your key brand assets are absolutely critical as a marketer or as a brand. So our key brand assets are our name, our logo, our colours, and also our style as well, and our personality.
I think you touch on something that's really useful for people to think about when they are creating their own business, their own identity, is take some time, have some fun thinking about, well, what do I want to call my business? What is my logo going to be, my brand name? And you don't have to have big budgets to go off and do that. You can talk to someone on Fiverr. You'll probably be on a WhatsApp group somewhere that you could say to someone, who would they recommend? You could have if you like doing that sort of thing, go on Canva and you can create something. But I do think it's really beneficial to take some time to think through, like, what is my branding, and what does it represent, and what does it stand for, and then how will I use it? Because that's something I've definitely invested in, and it just made, just for me anyway, a really big difference.
And now, from our side as well, we didn't want to say anything that was just, I guess, boring or straightforward, because that also doesn't reflect how we approach what we do. We do get quite a lot of hits on our website for people looking for an actual locksmith, but most of our work doesn't come from Google search. It comes from our first degree network. So we're prepared to live with that.
Confession, I was trying to find you on the internet, and I just put in your company name and then just realized that was not going to work. I was like, damn. So I found
at least you know where to go next time you need a locksmith, Kirsty.
Well, I know. And I do have a habit of, my habit isn't locking myself out. It's leaving my keys in the front door. I mean, so if anyone knows where I live, feel free to just check one night. The keys are probably there. Come in, have a cup of tea. One of the things we do as we come to the end of our conversation is some quick fire questions. So these questions will go to both of you, so you can both answer. But Alex, I'm going to come to you first. What advice would you give someone starting out?
Talk to everyone in your network. Mine your network. Get over the ickiness and ask for help.
Thank you. Chris, what advice would you give?
Your proposition will change, and that's a good thing. So don't feel like you have to get it 100% right before you do anything. Do something, learn from it, change, and it'll keep getting better and better. Yeah,
totally agree with that. Like, what you do, what you offer shifts and morphs as you get more comfortable in what you do. Chris, back to you. Who do you follow in social media land that you think others should know about?
You see, I'm a bit of a marketing geek. Yeah. Well, I'm a bit of a marketing geek, so I am going to focus more on that sort of side of things. There's a lady called Dr. Grace Kite that I follow. She runs a business called Magic Numbers. They are econometricians, so they help you see whether your marketing is working. But what I really like about her is that she has this unique ability to be able to take very, very complex data and explain it really simply with a diagram that means you just get it straight away. And so there's a lot we can learn from her, whether you're into econometrics and marketing or not. She's awesome.
Okay, I like that one. Alex?
So with my training and facilitator hat on, there's a few people, other than your good self, Kirsty, of course. I love following Jan Keck. I've been on a few of his courses. I think they're brilliant. And a lady I found more recently called Gwyn Wainsborough, who has a marketing, a newsletter series called The Quest. And I just love her advice and her tips and her practicality. So they're two good facilitator ones. And then another one that has to get a mention because it makes me laugh every Friday without fail is Dave Harland, the word man, who's an amazing copywriter.
Okay.
And he's just so funny. I mean, it's my sense of humour down to a T, a little bit sarcastic, a little bit dry, but just very talented and
Dave
very
Harland.
funny. So if you fancy a laugh every Friday, you're guaranteed to get it if you read his newsletter.
What book do you guys recommend?
Or shall I go? I've got one I quite like. There's a lady called April Dunford. She is a business-to-business marketer, but she's written a really good book called Obviously Awesome. And it's all about how to pitch your business and how to make other people think that you are awesome without you expecting them to already know that you are awesome.
I'm writing this down, because I love the word awesome, but as you both know, obviously awesome. Thank you.
So my recommendation is the Squiggly Careers book and set of podcasts by the amazing ladies who set up Amazing If. So that's Helen Tupper and Sarah Ellis. They were probably partly responsible for me becoming a coach and a trainer. They just do brilliant career advice that's really digestible, really, really practical. And I love all their stuff. So that's always my go-to recommendation.
I think they have a lot to answer for, that the word squiggly's got into the lexicon
It has,
in
isn't it?
UK
Yeah.
businesses. My perspective.
Talking about branding and the importance of branding, they have got a brilliant branding mnemonic there, haven't they?
Very
Squiggly
true.
careers.
Okay, final question. How have you invested in yourself or your business to support you to move forward?
So we've done some personal individual training, and we've done some training together. So one of the most impactful investments we made was Chris and I both coming on your Flourishing Facilitator course. That was game changing for us in lots of ways. And that was something we did together and got value from doing it together. But then individually, we try and do at least one upskill a year. So I went on one of Jan Keck's courses. I did my DISC qualification, and Chris has done quite a lot this year as well.
Yeah, I've done a couple of more marketing specific courses. So I did the marketing leadership masterclass, which is all about how to be a leader within a marketing environment, and also Masters of Advertising Excellence, learning about what drives better marketing creativity and effectiveness. So those are the kind of things I guess we've done to invest in ourselves. But then we've also put quite a bit of investment into the business in the past 12 months as well. So we've already talked about bringing Sophie on board. Behind the scenes, Alex and I are investing in an operating system to help us run our business. So a CRM, project management, digital asset management, associate management, that kind of stuff. And we're currently just putting the finishing touches to a suite of products where we've turned a lot of our training into more, I guess, finished products, but including capability frameworks and change management training, so that we're able to take a business from start to finish and really transform the way their marketing team works, rather than just do a one-off course on briefing or insights.
Nice. Wow. Love it. Well,
it's been busy.
Look, it has been. Locksmith, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon on the pink chair. It's now turned into a pink sofa. So I appreciate you being part of the conversation, and I look forward to seeing you both in real life, but also maybe continuing this conversation in a later podcast.
Oh, we'd love that. I've really enjoyed it, Kirsty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much indeed.
Do you know, I get FOMO when I have a partnership like that come and join me on the podcast. My FOMO is, they've got each other. They can talk to each other and make the decisions and play to each other's strengths. I do get FOMO, but it's just really great to hear how their business works at Locksmith, that it was fate, as Alex called it, and that they've done the grown-up things. They've sat down, they've had conversations, they've talked about their values, they've then talked about like what's important to them in the clients that they work with, the type of work that they do, and that it continues every year. They still have those conversations about what's important for them. I think the other thing as well that came out of that conversation for me was the importance of branding. And I think it's really easy for us as small businesses, solopreneurs, to think that our brand doesn't matter. I really think it does. And therefore, take some time, have some fun on choosing your business name. I once was given some really great advice when I started freelancing. I was like, how do I know what to call my business? And this branding expert gave me 3 options. You call it your name, your business is. So it could have been Lewis Consultancy, Kirsty Lewis Consultancy, Kirsty Lewis Training. Or you do what it says on the tin. So the brand name does what it says on the tin. So an example of that would be School of Facilitation. We're all about facilitation. Another example could be Screwfit in the UK. Whereas the third option is abstract. So it's a company name that has nothing to do with what it is you do. So Apple, BlackBerry, Locksmith. My first business was called Blue Tortoise. So nothing to do with what it is you do. And I just found that advice super helpful. So I share it here to inspire you. And then the other thing as well, get creative with the brand look and feel. So do you have a logo? What are the colors that you want? You've got to choose colors that really inspire you, that you want to see everywhere associated with you and your business. So there's no point choosing colors that just don't resonate for you. So for an example, when I've done branding before, they bring back colors like orange and yellow. I'm just like, nah, not me. I just don't like those colors. Sorry, yellow global, yellow tuxedo. That color works for you, but I've had my colors done, and if I wear yellow, it makes me look poorly. Hence why I'm always in greens and blues and whites and black. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the conversation today. Drop me a message in whatever app you're using. Tell us what you thought of today's episode. If you really liked it, please feel free to rate us. Leave a couple of stars would be great. Maybe 5, or a like. That would be good as well. I'm going to start asking you to do this sort of stuff for me. And if you've enjoyed this episode or previous episodes, share it with a fellow facilitator or trainer. Like, let's spread the word a little bit more, because I've got like a lone listener, I think, in Latin America and about 3 people in India. So it'd be amazing to spread the word a little bit more. Anyway, see you next time.